share. Let me see where we at. No. Let me get this up here.
So right now I'm just sharing the City of Arts website page. When you're ready, let me know and I'll stop sharing.
Okay, go ahead and because I need to see where.
Okay, I'll stop sharing.
Okay. So I need to put this up. I'm always getting nervous on this part. Okay, I'm going to start sharing. I'm ready. Hey, Stephanie.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Okay, you can go ahead and go. I just muted everyone, so when it's time for you to. Sheila, you've got to come off mute.
Leap, linking everyday extraordinary people. The key of G. Everett's Natural Beauty School and Salon. Hug Detroit Day. Aduni's Event Planning Bootcamp Academy. And in Bayou, it's not business as usual. The topics today are business, legal setup, licenses, memberships, and building your team. Our professional panelists are Rhonda Ravernell, Ronnie Nelson, Stella Aldo, Stephanie Hammonds, and your moderator for this afternoon is Gisele Caver. So sit back and relax, get your pen and pencil out, learn and enjoy. It's all yours, Gisele.
Well, welcome everyone to the second day of the City of Arts Virtual Music Symposium. I am so happy to be here. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, I have been involved in the business of music for more than 20 years, having worked for David Miles of David Miles and Milestones and Racy Biggs, and ran his recording studio, Will Ray Studios. I've learned a lot in this business from trial and error, a whole lot of error and some great trials. And I've learned from some great mentors, and 4 of them are on here today. We're waiting on Ronnie Nelson to to chime in, but Ronnie is a celebrated musical director for some of the Motown artists, and he started the TFO band, which at one time was the Sound of the Floaters organization, and now when he worked with the Floaters, and now he has a really, really awesome band. We also have Rhonda Ravernell, who is my accountant, and she's also my after hours therapist, because she's a therapist, and she's also an awesome vocalist. And Stella Aldo, who is one of the most sought after agents. She knows what to look for, what you need, how to approach the event owners. She's a wealth of information, and someone that I admire to the utmost, Attorney Stephanie Hammonds. She and I met when we were working with a females in entertainment organization, and I learned so much from her. And anytime I've called on her, she has been available. So without further ado, I would like to start off this conversation with Stella Aldo. Would you introduce yourself and tell us what your specialty is?
Good afternoon, and delighted to be here this afternoon. It was a great event. I started off my music career, actually I studied at University of Michigan and studied music, never thinking I would have such a wonderful opportunity of working with fabulous musicians from both Detroit and actually all over the United States. I work with a band called Intrigue, which is my group, which I started in 1983. And we primarily provide music for private and corporate events. My role started off as band leader / lead singer and MC, but then has morphed into managing and booking the band. So it's pretty interesting to be on both sides, and so much to learn from not only the music industry, but all the different facets in which make it up and which allows us to be successful. I like to say that starting off with finding the right personnel, getting the right combination of musicians. Your goal is to get the finest musicians, but also an important ingredient is a chemistry. So determining what instrumentation, your team, and we talk about building a team with this seminar. So building the team, finding the right people that get along, have respect, mutual respect, both from music standpoint, and then producing the product, putting us out there, marketing us. So my role is to make sure I have the right personnel. I've been really lucky to have the same musicians on my rhythm section, my front singers, my horn players. And on some occasion, I've had to outsource and get musicians from New York, and if there's a different part of the country we're providing the music, we have to get different musicians. So we may augment the band. And my role is to keep the band working. So I book the band. There are entertainment agencies out there that can do that for you. I find, although they are wonderful tools, but knowing that I'm out there, make sure the band's working as much as we can. This last year has been difficult with COVID for everyone, but now that things are starting to pick up, we do, I make sure it's either, right now there's some bars and restaurants. We're starting with events, private corporate events. There's the casinos. There's so many areas to provide music. So not only do I book the band, but I also act as MC and make sure we're rehearsing. As far as the business end, can I go into the business end, Gisele? Oh, I can't hear you, Gisele.
Sure, go ahead.
So from the business end, and I don't want to bore, so forgive me, I don't know the format. So please, let me know if I'm.
Go ahead.
But you start off with your team. Once you have your team, your product, you've got all your music, depending on where you're playing, targeting what kind of music. Do they want R&B? Do they want dinner music? Do they want standards? Do they want Latin? You know, and so my goal, I think, with my band, we have 7 lead singers between musicians that sing and the lead singers, and we cover everything. So I can come to my client and say, you want dinner music? Do you want cocktail music? Do you want piano and violin? Do you need ceremony music? So targeting your client, knowing what they want and giving them what they want and offering the versatility, I think is a huge selling point. In Detroit, we have so much talent. There's so many talented musicians and singers, and finding the place for them to perform, I think, is very important. From the business end, then once you have your team built, then you need to market it. Where are we going to work? But what comes with that? You need equipment, or you're going to hire a production company. If you have your own equipment, which is a huge investment, then you need a vehicle to transport that equipment from one site to another. With that, you also need insurance for your equipment, insurance for liability insurance. So that when you go to a job, they know you're not going to sue them if someone falls or gets injured. So that's another part of the business end. Marketing your band with advertisement, having a website, different sites to advertise, such as The Knot, The Wedding Wire, The Jewish News, again, depending what market you're going for. And then once you have your gigs, then it's being organized, being prepared, so you know where everyone has to be, what they have to do, what they're expected. So being organized, sending out all that information, your timeline, your details, what songs we need to know, if you have to learn new songs. Then there's meeting with the client to do that personal, you know, give them that little attention that they know you're going to give them what they want, and their event is going to be seamless. So whether it's a corporate event or whether it's a private event, whether it's a bar, whether a restaurant or an outdoor concert, you need to be prepared. So set lists for music that will make that event successful, entertain people. Our job is to make people happy. My job when I get on stage is like, we have so much going on in the world. We have to bring joy. I want everyone to leave here feeling just great from the music that has touched them, from all of our talents. You know, I start with a prayer. I say, God, let us bring together our talents and make people have a great time, whether they're listening, whether they're dining, whether they're dancing. And I think in a nutshell, that's basically what I do. And I think after 35 years, I still love what I do.
Okay. All right. Mr. Ronnie Nelson, can you unmute yourself, Ronnie?
Okay. All right. My name is Ronnie Nelson, as she stated. Okay. Do you have me, Gisele?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. My name is Ronnie Nelson, and I've been in the music business since 1970. And I've been blessed to be able to stay around for a long time. And I've had a lot of different directions that I've been in since then. I've been the musical director for several of the Motown legend artists, like the Contours, Dennis Edwards' Temptations Review, David Ruffin, Eddie Kendricks, Undisputed Truth, the original Vandellas, the Floaters, the Dramatics, and so many. I've been able to be the musical director for them, and included in that, I've had to wear several hats through the years. As Stella stated, and she nailed everything pretty good, because she stated what's necessary to build a team and make everything develop and make things work. Because no person, one person by themselves, is going to be able to make the music business work. Emphasize the word business because it's more business than it is just the music. You want to have the best product that you can put out, and you want to have the best results, but you have to learn your business if you want to have longevity. You have to realize that you have to put all the T's crossed and all the I's dotted, and so many more things that are involved behind the scenes than just the performance. So you have to include everything in that when you do it. So I've been blessed to be able to stay around a long time, and currently still around. So I'm very happy that the City of Arts invited me on this panel. And I want to thank you, Gisele, for hosting such a wonderful event, because this is something that's definitely needed. And I wish I had got it when I was started out.
Well, I think one of the best lessons that I learned in this business, I learned from Ronnie Nelson. The very first group that I thought I was going to manage, and I was thrown into it, were the Five Special. And they were doing a gig on the West Side. And at the end of the night, there wasn't enough money to pay Ronnie. And he told me in no uncertain terms that he wasn't leaving without his money. And I didn't have any money in my pocket. Everything was taken off the door. And so one of the other group members came up with enough money to pay Ronnie. And until even today, I still owe him $100. And that has been it's been more than 20 years.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes, it's been 30.
But he said, if you don't know what you're doing, you need to ask someone. And I hadn't talked to anybody about getting into this endeavor. I just thought, how hard could it be? There's a group here, you can invite some people, but the group didn't do any marketing of themselves. So the only people in the building were my friends that paid to get in. And definitely there was not enough money to pay Ronnie at the end of the night. But that's a lesson that I will never forget. That ask somebody if you don't know what you're doing, and always have a plan B, C, and D if the first one doesn't work. And I've never been caught in that situation ever again. So I thank you for that. And one day I'm gonna pay you your $100, Ronnie.
Okay. All right.
All right, now next, Miss Rhonda Ravernell.
Am I unmuted?
Yes, you're unmuted. Yes.
All right. Well, my name is Rhonda Ravernell, and I also am a recording artist, slash accountant slash psychologist. Now, don't ask me how that happened, but I left the music scene some ages ago and decided to change my career and go into psychology. Each have been very good to me because I have taken what I have learned and put it into good use. I have been in the accounting field for over 29 years. And I pretty much, that was my main foundation, in terms of having a living. I love the music business. I sung with some of the greatest artists performing, but I wanted to do something different. I wanted to be on the other end of the business, and that is learning the business side of music. Just as Ronnie said, you need to know the business side. It's all the, creativity is wonderful. I commend you. But that business is what's going to keep you sustainable. Okay. I have created a presentation that won't take too much of your time. I want to share with you to help you understand the importance of knowing the business side. That's going to help you. So give me a second. Let me pull it up here. And can everyone see it? Just let me know if you can by shaking your head, nodding your head. You can see it? Okay. Okay, let's do this here. Okay. Let's do this here. All right, can everyone see it? Okay, a sustainable artist is identified by their accountability. Now, what do I mean by accountability? Let's see here, I need to, there we go. What do I mean by accountability? First, let's understand, what does the word sustainable mean? The capacity to endure in a relatively ongoing way across various domains of life. And
Can
those
you show that slide?
Sure.
Okay.
Can you see the slide? Can everyone see it?
Kind of small. Can we enlarge it in?
Okay, let me see here.
I think you hit at the bottom there.
Did I hit the right? Hold on. Okay.
Here you go.
Can you see it now?
You went back to the other, you had the whole screen.
I apologize. Is it, can you see it now?
Well,
hold on a second. I know just what I did.
there you go. Uh-oh.
Okay. I didn't mess up, did I? Do you see it now?
Well, it went back to the, where your notes are.
Can you see it now?
Yeah, well, okay. Let's.
It's a second, hold on. Okay.
Okay, but just go on to the next one.
Okay. What does the word sustainable mean? The capacity to endure in a relatively ongoing way across various domains of life. Those various domains of life are personal, career, family, community, spiritual community, and also financial stability. There are 4 distinct areas of sustainability. Our focus is on the human sustainability. Human sustainability aims to maintain and improve the human capital in society, and that is wealth, money, principles, investments, funds, and resources. What is a sustainable artist? Well, a sustainable artist takes accountability for your sustainable lifestyle. Set goals to maintain a sustainable lifestyle. You focus on your musicianship, know your skill, whether it be in jazz, R&B, rap, technical, gospel, whatever the area that you are in. You learn and understand business of music. You keep accurate records of all business finances. You do not mix personal with business finances. How do you begin a sustainable lifestyle? Take accountability. Well, I did that, I apologize. The first step that you need to take is choose an entity. An artist has 3 choices in forming a business entity: sole proprietorship, limited liability company, LLC, or corporation. An LLC will make the most sense as opposed to a partnership or a corporation. LLCs offer legal protection. Partnerships don't. LLCs are less maintenance than full-fledged corporations. Business tax write-offs. Now, I have a list of more, but these are just the main ones I wanted to put out here, and that is the music gear, home studio, office, equipment, software, equipment storage, teaching studio, office space, rehearsal space, home recording studio, costs like your rent, your mortgage, interest, condo fees, utilities, insurance, and repairs. And also, of course, you can write off vehicle and travel expense. Whatever the mileage allowance, and that is the rate for that tax year, that is what the rate you would use to write off the mileage that you use for business. Insurance, repairs, tour buses, and gas, and you can also depreciate your vehicle, and these are deductible items. Business travel is 100% deductible for tax purpose. Performances, auditions, recordings, and co-writing sessions, and more. And I have a list of that too that I can share with anyone who's interested in learning more about it. IRS will give you a 50% deduction for any meals taking place over a business discussion. And that is a business discussion, not going to McDonald's or going somewhere and saying, okay, I'm going to use this as a business tax write-off. No, you want to do the right thing. Record income and expenses. Keep a ledger of all income and expenses. Record your bank fees. I find that when clients come to me, they forget about the bank fees. Keep all receipts in an envelope or pocket folder. And please make copies of all your receipts for the purpose of receipts fading. The paper that they're using today is it's not really good. So I encourage you to make copies of all your receipts and attach them to your copies. The appropriate bank account setup is to request a small business account that provides a statement that separates your expenses into categories. You also can open a savings account for a sole purpose of income tax. Do not have this account attached to your checking. Use a standalone savings account. Choose a bank that offers an interest-bearing checking account. Make your money work for you. Making concrete investments. I know, we think about the artistry side, and we sing and we perform and we do all of this, but we never think about later on in life. This is something that I encourage everyone, to consider making concrete investments. For example, investing in an NFS, it's a non-fungible tokens. That is someone who, for example, may have, art or whatever your merchandise may be that you're selling. It's a form of an investment. Someone may buy it, and that's money that could be coming into your account for a rainy day. You can also learn what types of investment are favorable. Seek after a financial planner. Learn your risk tolerance. Are you aggressive? Are you conservative? Are you speculative? Develop rules to invest, to buy. Be an investor and not a trader. Learn to make your money work for you, okay? The next slide is something that's important, and I'm sure someone else can touch on this as well, is artists do not have to be licensed to perform their own original music or any public domain music. But to record other artists' music, you must receive a license and permission to use another artist's public domain music. And please do not take credit for someone else's music, or you use their music without consent or license. And I say this because I know a lot of young people, get into the business and they're not aware of these things. So, this is, something that is very important for them to have knowledge of. And then you have the public performance license organizations here, which is the American Society of Composers and Authors and Publishers, and that's we call ASCAP. Then you have Broadcast Music and BMI, and Society of European Stage and Authors and Composers. So that's European side, but this is something that I feel that is very important. And last but not least, this is the artist who poses a remarkable number. Can you see me? I wanted to poses a remarkable number of skills and talent do not become successful. Why is it that being a sustainable artist so much important than being a successful artist? A sustainable artist sets goals for his or her personal and musical lifestyle. According to research, it is possible to make a full-time living by being sustainable. Setting goals for yourself is pertinent to your sustainability. It is your accountability that maintains your sustainability. I want to say to you, give you an example. When I started the music business, there was somebody who was in my corner who told me, oh, you can sing, you can blow, but what you know about the business? What is it that, what do you know about your craft? You sing jazz, okay, where did jazz come from? I thought he was crazy. I was like, I want to sing. I ain't thinking about what my craft is. But you know what? I took his advice. I studied jazz. I learned where jazz came from, how it started. And I learned that everything came from jazz. R&B, gospel. So with that, I decided I was going to learn the business side. And this is my reason for taking this initiative to come before you to say to you, I love music, but I also want to do what is right, that I can stay sustainable. And I want you to stay sustainable because you need to know everything you do, the money that you have coming in, you need to know what's coming in and going out. You need to be aware of that. And I know a lot of times we get accountants that come in and they take care of our books. You need to take care of your books. You need to tell your accountant, well, I know this came in. Where did you apply that? You see what I'm saying? So this is very, very important. Gisele and I work together. I've worked with many of the artists in Detroit, in terms of helping them get on track and doing the right thing for themselves. And she can attest that I have helped her, put her business in perspective and on the right path so that she can maintain and know what's going on in her business. So that is something that I encourage any artist, any new artist that's coming on the scene. This is a blessing that we have, that this format has been presented to help you, because we didn't have that when we came along.
Right.
And I'm sure we can attest to that. We didn't have all of this. So now you have this opportunity to learn from each and every one of us on this panel and take notes. And if you need any information, you are welcome to reach out to me. My number is 248-905-1786. I'll be more than happy to send you any information that you may need. Because like I said, I have a list of write-offs that you can write off. A lot of things you don't know that you can write off. So.
Okay, we'll put your contact information in the chat, on the chat line. If you see at the bottom where it says chat,
Yes.
yeah, you can put your information there. Okay. Before I introduce Attorney Stephanie Hammonds, I would like to also add in there that you should also join the union. In Detroit, it's Local 5. You should also look at joining the Grammy organization and Music Cares. Music Cares is associated with the Grammy organization. When you join them, if you are a musician and you get sick, they will help you. They have funds that they use to help sick musicians. And if you have been a member for a while and you're financial with your dues, they will help the family with funeral expenses. So you need to research Music Cares as well as the Grammy organization. Helpful. Okay, now our next panelist is Attorney Stephanie Hammonds.
Hi, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here today. I am living the life and the career that I dreamed of, and I'm excited to be able to talk and share. I've been practicing entertainment law for 30 years now. Although Michigan and Detroit does not have a music business industry presence, I stand by and firmly believe that we have the most talented group of any Billboard chart or any successful song that there's 6 degrees of separation or less between that song, that successful artist, and a Detroit connection, whether they be the writer, a musical director, a musician, or a background singer. I was attracted to this profession because I am a student of history and I love music. And so what attracted me to wanting to be an entertainment attorney was that I watched Unsung, and before Unsung, Behind the Music, and before that, various documentaries about the lives of artists that I admired and whose music I enjoyed. And what I discovered was that it didn't matter if it was Billie Holiday and it didn't matter if it was Toni Braxton. There was a consistent pattern of negative behavior or negligent behavior that contributed to the downfall or the derailment of an artist's career and sometimes even their life. So I wanted to be a part of the solution. And so I decided at high school that I wanted to be an attorney. And then once I became a law student, I decided I wanted to be an entertainment attorney. One of my clients told me that I'm an artist advocate, and my motto or my mission is to protect, improve, and enhance the lives of artists and all creative people. The scope of my clientele includes music, musicians, songwriters, artists, recording artists, independent record labels, producers, also visual artists, authors, and just about every clothing designers, just about every area. I practice what's called transactional law, as well as entertainment related litigation. Transactional law deals with the negotiation of contracts. It deals with formation of business entities. It deals with intellectual property protection, whether it's registration of copyrights, registration of trademarks, protection of trade secrets, and basically any type of law that is related to intangible property, things that start out as an idea in your mind and may later come into tangible form, as opposed to real estate or three-dimensional things that we can see. That is non-litigation related. But as I said, I also have been involved in entertainment related litigation, primarily copyright infringement actions in the area of unauthorized sample use, Also a breach of contract, non-payment of royalties, of termination of contracts. I've been very fortunate over the course as I've grown as an artist and as my career has expanded, I've grown to see and to know and represent a wide range of artists based on where they are. When I was starting out as a young lawyer, I was fortunate enough to work as an associate with Gregory Reed. And so I jumped in full feet, was able to work on everything that he was working on, which included at that time a representation of Anita Baker, copyright infringement, litigation involving Kevin McCord against Mariah Carey, The Last Poets, David Nelson and Abi O'Doon. Most notably for me, and this was after I left his office, I was the only female member of the legal team that represented Mrs. Rosa Parks in the groundbreaking litigation against Outkast, which defined when and how you can use a person's name as the title of a song. And through that incredible experience of being on Mrs. Parks' legal team for 10 years, I was able to represent or assist in her representation in a number of areas, but in that case in particular had the, I guess, the thrill of a lifetime to be able to work as co-counsel with the late, great Johnny Cochran and also with attorney Willie Gary. I look forward to really sharing, and I hope that there'll be a lot of questions asked because I have a wealth of information. The one thing I wanted to say, just to kind of give an idea of who I've represented, I have grown as my clientele has grown. And so initially I worked with new artists, some of the artists that I've helped to develop and represented, most notably K. John, who had the hit song On the Ocean. I was Big Sean's attorney from 2005 to 2016. I've also, unfortunately or fortunately, represented a number of estates once musicians and artists pass on. Batin, Titus Glover, 1/3 of the founding members of Slum Village. Songwriter Morris Broadnax, who was a great and prolific songwriter with Motown and Stevie Wonder, and co-authored some of his biggest hits from the 70s, All I Do, Until You Come Back to Me. So I didn't want to spend a lot of time talking about myself, but just enough to give some degree of understanding about my approach to practicing entertainment law. And I'm hoping that there'll be a lot of discussion and I'll be able to share a lot of my experience and wealth of knowledge for people. And I just want to congratulate and applaud City of Arts for putting the symposium together because it's well needed. And I hope that people will walk away learning a lot more and being a lot more cognizant of what they need to do than when they started.
Thank you. Now, do any of you have any questions?
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, let's say that I wanted to be in music as a career, and I don't know anything. I just believe that I know how to either play an instrument or sing. Where would I, in hearing everything that you guys do, where would I start as far as getting myself together and on the right road to making music a career?
Ronnie, you want to take that? Got to unmute yourself.
First off, as when you say that you would like to start as a musician, practice your craft so that you become a musician that is valuable. Mm-hmm. That will be the first thing. And then your next best move that I think would be to try to associate yourself around as many musicians as possible. Mm-hmm. You know, and if you have your craft together and able to stay in there with those type of musicians and entertainers, you'll be able to network good enough to be asked to come in with somebody at some point. just keep in mind that once you start dipping into that pool, make sure you start looking into your business aspects of everything. Because if it's as a single musician, it's one thing. But if you want to be in it for the long haul, you really want to get your business set up. Just as Stephanie stated, you know, the different things that's involved in the entertainment business area. It's just so many things that are there, and that so many musicians overlook and forget about because they're enjoying what they do, which we all want to enjoy what we do and want to be able to make a living doing something that we enjoy. But that would be the best direction. Learn your craft and then get yourself associated with as many people. And you're never too smart where you can't hear what other people have to say. Keep your ears open and your eyes open, because a lot of things you see, you might ignore. And that might be the one thing that would be your downfall. So that's what I say.
Okay, Stella.
I think that's an excellent question, because you have so many young students who are getting out of college or, you know, getting out of school and would like to do the music career, would like to have a career in music. I can say my own daughter, she's 17, and, you know, fortunately she's watched what I have done. So she's had a little advantage of knowing people in the business. And I think, Ronnie, you made an excellent point. It's like, you have to associate yourself with people in the industry. Unfortunately, there's so many people that are talented, but just don't know the right people. It's like the old saying, you have to be at the right place at the right time. So whether it be going to where there is live entertainment and meeting musicians and just finding out where there are opportunities. As Ronnie indicated, practicing your talent, making sure that you're solid, but also with that, not only just the connections, but I think that a lot has to do with discipline, so that, you know, you're just not going to go and sing or play your instrument. You need to be on time. You need to be dressed properly. You know, you have to represent yourself. So an image is important. There are certain key ingredients to help you to be marketable. So depending on which genre of music or what group you're going to be with, but having that business sense of being serious, I need to be on time. I need to know, how much does a gig pay? How am I going to get paid? When am I going to get paid? Ensuring that you go in and are educated so that you don't have anybody take advantage of you. You put yourself in a position so that doors will open and you become marketable.
Rhonda?
Well, as I indicated, being a sustainable artist is those things that Ronnie and Stella have both mentioned. I don't want to feel like that we're being redundant, but it is important that you know your craft. If you know your craft, then you can do many things, you know, like, in other words, maybe hook up with another artist and collaborate or, you know, perform with. The most important thing on my end is knowing your business, being able to keep records of everything that you do. That's really important. You may not think it is, but it is, because I've seen, and I'm not dropping names, I'm not going to, but I've seen artists that have lost everything because they did not take care of the business side of things. You know, they started fresh. They had to start all over again. I know an artist that we don't have, who we've lost a couple of years ago, who I worked with, and most of you know him as L. McKenzie. And I was very proud of L. McKenzie, because L. McKenzie listened to what I told him. And he was a sustainable artist. He worked in his community. He was very abroad. So you've got to take and keep track of your business. Know what's coming in and what's going out. You know, keep your records. That's the key.
Okay. Now that we've past the point where we've identified what kind of artist that we are and what genre of music that we're going to play. Stephanie, what do they do now?
Well, before I answer that question, I just wanted to chime in on the last question because I think that Ronnie made an excellent point, and I wanted to expound on it and add another way that people can get into the business by networking is important and relationships are important. And you and I would also see each other at Tyrone Bradley's record pool. There are still organizations and gatherings where musicians get together, and it may vary by venue, but it's important for you to be in the same atmosphere so that you can mingle with people, whether it's hanging out at a studio, getting to know a studio owner, going where the people are, because that's the important said by yourself. And I think that that's a great way to see if there's musical chemistry as well as personality chemistry as well. So I just wanted to add that little tidbit, and I'm sorry, please repeat your question and I'll answer.
I was saying, now that the person has decided to be in the industry, what do they do next? If you're going into a group, do you need to sign paperwork with the group? Because if you're doing some writing together, do you do that? How do you do that?
Sure. So the first thing that you do when you decide that you're going to make music a career is that you want to establish a business foundation through which you will conduct operations. So Rhonda touched on it in her initial talk in her presentation, because the first thing that we want to do as a lawyer is we want to insulate the creative person from personal liability. So the first thing we do is create a layer between the artist or the group and whatever potential legal issues there may be. So there are, and Rhonda touched upon this too, there's a number of options. So proprietorship, partnership, limited liability company, or corporation. Now, as a professional, I agree with what Rhonda said. We do not want to deal with sole proprietorship. We do not want to deal with partnerships because they do not provide that level of legal separation from personal liability. So we're going to be looking at establishing a home or corporations are a little bit more expensive and they require a lot more detail in terms of operation. You have to have minutes, you have to have more meetings. There's more flexibility with the limited liability company without all of the legal requirements. So step number one, we're going to set up a business entity through which we as a group or our individual artists are going to transact business. That's first. Then the next thing we're going to do is what you said. If it is a group, we need to have an agreement, an operating agreement, if it's an LLC, that's going to spell out how we transact business, what are our guidelines for how we operate, how do we make decisions, how many people are needed, is it a majority decision or unanimous decision, does it depend upon the types of decisions I'm making, how many signatures are necessary to sign a check or to withdraw monies from the happens if, heaven forbid, one of the members passes away or becomes disabled, how profits are distributed, how are expenses allocated among the members. All of that is encompassed in agreement. Also, how are the assets going to be owned? One of the main assets of a group is the group's name. Because that is the brand that's being developed with every song that's written or sold and every performance that's made. You protect it and establish ownership through registering it as a trademark in connection with goods, the sale of music, and also registering it as a service mark in connection with live performances. So in the agreement I was referring to, we're also going to address ownership. If there are 4 members in the group, do the 4 members own it equally? And what happens if there is a leaving, if a member leaves, what rights do they have to use it? We saw in the past where there has been litigation or legal discussions between Otis Williams and the use of the name Temptations with Dennis Edwards and the Temptations Review and how they resolved that. These are all the types of issues that would be addressed in an agreement. And so setting up your business to how you're going to transact business would be the next step. Can you, hello?
Yeah, you keep going and stop and freezing.
That's
your
why I had
voice.
asked to be on the phone.
But
And you can,
so-
if you turn your video off, Stephanie, that might help with us being able to hear you a little bit better if you stop your video.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yes, yes, okay.
I tell you, Stephanie, that this is Sheila, and sometimes that will see how serious you are if you're going to go through those steps to make sure that you're on the right path, that you set your foundation right. And I have found, I have a natural hair school, and when I would teach the business side of it, when we get to partnership or you know, what type of business legal setup you're going to have, and there may be two friends there. I mean, they are really hanging with each other, late together, everything. And when we would talk about that, and then I'd say, would you choose her as your partner? It was a whole different look at life with them, because they would have seen each other's behavior, what they tend to do. And it's like, you can be my girl, but we cannot be partners, you know, so that's a real thing, because as we look at one another and how people are handling themselves, and you know, and how they protect themselves, and how they deal with their family, and how they deal with their business, and their lifestyle, and all of that, that's going to make a big difference in whether I want you to be part of my business versus just my hanging partner.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's so important, like we said earlier, when you work to put a team together, that you're all on the same page. Or less, like Ronnie, when you have to hire people for a major gig, how do you handle that? As you are the leader, you tell them what's going to happen, or do you accept input from other members in the group? You have to unmute yourself, honey. Unmute yourself.
But that's one of the things that Stella had stated and talked about, is you have to make sure that you have the proper team so that the personalities blend in together, not just on the stage, but behind the stage. Because you don't really want to have something that I've seen many times through the years. I've been with groups that behind the stage, they're fighting like cats and dogs. Count them off to get them on stage. They love each other on stage. They love each other and they do a great job. Many groups have been that way, many groups. Yeah. And you really don't want to have that problem with the personnel mixing together, but it happens. It happens over and over, you know, just like just like fire and water. Sometimes two people can get along, and then other times they can't. And so you have to make sure that you have a good blend of personalities. And my way of doing it is I sit with every person that I ever have to have involved in the organization. I sit and I listen. I listen and listen to what they have to say so that I can see if we're going in the same direction, because everybody's not a team person. Everybody's not a team person. There are some people that just have to stand alone in their mind, but, so you want to get the type of people that you can work with and that will work with everybody that's in your operation. And, so it's not a thing where I just go out and hire somebody and accept what they do, but I will listen to what they have to say first and foremost.
Can I ask a question of Ronnie and Stella? How do you discern those musicians that you would love for them to be like they are so good, but or you have this sense that they're not the ones that are going to stay, that they're just flying through, and they may use you and get all your connections or whatever, which is, it is what it is. You meet people and all that kind of stuff. But how do you do a build on that when you know that this person probably is, and do you ask that in your interview with them? What are your goals? And then okay, they're just going to be here for a minute. How do you deal with that, both of you?
Well, the way that I handle that, I have always been acceptable of somebody just a little bit less talented, but they have a great personality and they're easy to get along with. And I know that if they're listening and they're easy to get along with, then that's the person that I would rather have than to have an outstanding person that's super, that has a big ego that I know is going to cause trouble.
Yeah.
And that's the way I see it.
I want to piggyback off of that. I think, when I think about it as being a psychologist, the mindset, when an artist goes into the business, like you said, they have ego problems. And, that starts from the beginning. And, those are some of the things that, I think that a lot of artists are not familiar with, because of their egos and, so with that, this is why I really want to work with a lot of the artists to kind of work on the behaviors, to be cognitive of, especially in groups and things, I just wanted to just say something about that.
Okay, Stella?
Well, I agree. All well said. I find depending on, what your audience is. Obviously, if it's a concert and it's a national act in which you're not one-on-one with your audience, so you can go on stage and masquerade the things that are going on behind the scene. With my group, 99% of our jobs, we are right there with the clients, so everything, there's no backstage. Everything is seen in front. So I find it's really important that you find the personalities that, as I said earlier, that respect one another and work well. And there is definitely the chemistry thing. And I agree with Ronnie saying about taking someone that may be a little bit less talented, but gets along and is a team player. You're going to find there are different personalities. You're going to have strong personalities. You're going to have team players. You have the Chiefs and you got the Indians. And so you need to have the Indians, right? And to me, feel very fortunate. All the musicians I've worked with we've had a great chemistry. There's sometimes, as Sheila, you indicated, how do you know? Sometimes you don't know. It's like opening up a watermelon. When you go to buy it, not till you open it up you're going to find out if it's good or not. And with my experience, there's been some personalities that you when you meet them, they seem like they're going to work out perfect, but then you don't know. It's kind of like a relationship. You fall in love with somebody and later on, they're not the person you thought. Same with musicians. I mean, musicians are known for, like, especially entertainers, they can, they can convince you of whatever, but then the true side might come out, and then, you know what, unfortunately, that relationship's going to end and you move on to find the right personality. So I always try to find the good in each person and maximize that. But when you're dealing with, whether you have 3 people in the group, a trio, or if you have 12 people, when you get on stage, your job, it's got to all come together. So if you have any personality that's going to not allow you to give the best performance, then that person has to be replaced. Sometimes that's a terrible job too.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that. How do you handle relieving, I'm going to say relieving people of the job graciously, without drama?
Most cases, you just don't call them. Don't call them back.
Don't call them no more.
Don't call them back.
Hey, I see Tylene has her hand up. She has a question.
More so a comment. I was just gonna say, and I think this has been said, but I really do think that as long as we know that all things are working for our good, even if a relationship doesn't work out, we have to be able to find the opportunity in that obstacle or that lesson learned, something that's going to help us to be better prepared for the next situation. And then I was going to say as well, and I don't know if this was mentioned, but like references, getting references of people that they've worked with in the past when you're getting connected with somebody new. Sometimes people will ask for references, but they don't always really call. And I think social media is a great tool too, because a lot of times you can go out and find information about folks that you might want to connect with and kind of see, how do they act, how they present themselves, what are people's opinion of them? And that can potentially help to avoid, getting into situations that may not work. And I'm sure Stephanie, will speak to the fact that even if you're working with someone new and, just because you have a couple of great times with someone doesn't mean they become your partner, spin it out, you take a little spin first and see how people act over time before committing to them. So that was just a couple of thoughts that I had as I was listening. It's been great so far. I'm really enjoying the conversation.
Okay, now I see we have trumpet player Guyman Inslee is in the house. Guyman, I know you have been band leader, writer, producer, and those are some very heavy hats to wear. So can you tell us what has been your experience in building your team of musicians, Guyman? Can the host unmute him? Okay.
I did request that he unmute himself, but he still has to take himself off of mute.
Guy, can you unmute yourself? No, can't get him. Well, we'll move on because he hasn't unmuted himself. We'll move on. Okay, Rhonda, did you have something to add to that? Unmute yourself.
No, I think everything that has been said is definitely, I'm in agreeable. Like I said, I don't want to be redundant, but it's really important that you research and you find out who this person is, so that you can kind of have an idea of what you're getting yourself into. Just as the young lady said, doing some research on media, social media, because everybody's on social media, and at least from what my perspective, you could get references and call those references, to learn about that person.
But I think in
It's a
Detroit,
very
more so than anything, we rely
Mhm.
on word of mouth. Usually know someone has played with Stella, and someone has been in the room with Sheila, and someone has been on the
Right.
road with Ronnie Nelson. So we're all like the 6 degrees of separation, like Stephanie was saying. We're all kind of connected musically around here. And oftentimes it is word of mouth.
But Gisele, you don't really see the true behavior of someone, even if you're, they're on the scene. We
Mhm.
have jam sessions and everybody is there and we're having a good time and we're singing. But when you talk about, okay, I want this person to join me in the group and, we're going to tour or travel. And then all of a sudden you see this person's other side and you're like, oh my God, I never got the opportunity to really get to know the person because all
Mhm.
I've seen is what I've seen on the music scene. You know what I'm
Well,
saying? So,
when you're on a jam session or something like that, most
Mhm.
musicians and artists are at their best because they want
Yes.
everybody to say, "Oh, they're wonderful, they're great,
Right.
they get along, they're so friendly." But
Mhm.
then, like Gisele says, there are so many people around here that have worked with almost anybody that
Mhm.
somebody's gonna say, "Well, you really don't like that person," because when you see them behind the scenes and see how bad they're really treating people, you're
Yeah.
gonna find yourself talking negative about them. So
Yeah,
that
that's true.
happens
Mhm.
a lot of
A lot.
Wow.
Okay, Pamela, you have a question?
Yes, and I hope I'm not sounding redundant. Um, I heard everything that was said in reference to a group like the Floaters or the Temptations, in reference to business and what is required. Um, is it different or is it the same for a single singer who has a band that she travels with and backup singers? Is it the same? Are they considered a group too, or is it different in reference to the legal things that has to happen?
It's a good question.
Well, that's a great question. For a single artist, what you're saying, that artist has a band behind her. So she's really the sole artist. And I'm assuming she's paying the band members to work for her. Is that my understanding of your
work for
question?
hire.
Work
Yes.
for
Work for
hire.
hire, right. So
Yes.
with that, she still has to have an entity,
Yes,
because she's going to pay, so yes, it all applies the same for a single artist as well as group. It doesn't,
Mhm.
you have to set up your entity. And just as Stephanie said, there's more to it. In terms of when you're dealing with groups, it's different, as opposed to someone single, because like Ronnie said, they're for hire. So she, basically have to set up her entity, which is also an LLC.
Okay, Paul Stanulus had a question.
Yeah, I agree everything that you've been saying about the chemistry as far as the personalities. But one thing that that I found in addition to that is the musical chemistry. Once again, I played with some of the best musicians that you can find in a group, but sometimes the group doesn't gel as a unit. But like you were saying, maybe you might want to take the some musicians that might not have the world-class talent, but as a group, musically, their chemistry is locked so tight that that's what really sells the group as well, is having the musical chemistry in addition to the personality chemistry.
Yeah, I've seen where that kind of works opposite when band members are on stage and the guitar player is mad with the keyboard player and they're throwing daggers across the room at each other, or they're not smiling, you can't feel that energy from the band. And I sit in the audience and say, wow, I wonder what's going on there. Other people in the audience may not pay attention to that, but because I've worked around entertainers and I kind of know when the chemistry isn't correct on stage, and to me it shows up in the music. The audience may say, oh, that was such a good performance, but I saw y'all rolling your eyes at each other up there. And I saw when somebody did something that was really great, that you turned your head, you didn't encourage them. And that will reflect in someone that knows the business and knows how that works. When you're watching that, I can always tell when there's an issue with the people on the stage because the music does not gel.
Right.
Personalities don't gel. And I love that, Paul. That's great. Now I think Stella had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to elaborate on the earlier comment or question regarding when someone doesn't work out, how to let them go. And sometimes I find that that personality may have not gone along within your situation, but they move to another situation and they'll fit in because it's more conducive for them. So, and always not burning a bridge. So that's the fine line of saying, you want to be professional. It's a hard thing to do sometimes to say, I don't think it's working, but let's find another situation for you, because you never know. Life is cyclical and people are going to ultimately come around. So you don't want to burn a bridge.
That you may have to use them again one day in the future. Okay. All right, Stephanie.
Yeah.
Okay, she's muted.
Okay, hi. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to add on to the question about what to do with as a single artist as opposed to a group, and help to translate a little bit more specifically. So when you are, say, a live performer and you have a band, but you are the featured act and they are accompanying you, it is important for you to have your own entity and to hire them. Now, the term work for hire was used. They're musicians, and so there is an agreement that you can, a very short agreement, but you should have something in writing and you should have a receipt in terms of payment, and you should get, even though I know a lot of people don't want to fill out a Form W-9 so that you have proof of payment and can issue a 1099. That is the proper protocol, because at the end of the year, when it comes time to do your taxes, if you don't have proof that you paid a portion of that fee to your band, then you're going to be held responsible as if you had received 100% of that income. So there's just a few steps in between, because you're almost acting at, it is a what we would call an employee or for hire situation. They're not an employee of yours, but you are paying them to render a service. So I don't want to go over into the tax area. So I'm going to stay, I'm not going to cross that line, but I did want to make that distinction just to make sure, to give a little bit more meaning to what was meant behind a work for hire.
Right. Okay. All right. So now we have talked about a number of things, but how do you build your team when you're starting out? Like Ronnie, what did you need first? Now you've got all these musicians that are coming together to do a gig. You've got the sheet music. You need a team, or do you do all the calling for the rehearsals, making sure the tracks are, the lead sheets and all of that's there, making sure everybody has their instrument, knowing what the venue is like. How many people do you need in your team to be successful? Or do you try to do it all yourself? You need to unmute, Ronnie.
Are the person that's carrying all the weight when you're starting out. And so that unfortunately, that makes you responsible for setting up the rehearsals, for making sure you have the proper musicians in place. It generally puts you putting the song repertoire together. You know, as Stella stated about, it makes you have to get the rehearsal place. You have to make sure that people are going to be there on time. You have to get people that are reliable enough to at least start the foundation of your group or your entity. Okay. And then at that point, as you grow, that's when you have to be wise enough to realize that you're going to have to incorporate other people into your operation, because if you're depending on the type of venues and places that you're performing, and the 90% of what I've done has always been major concerts. And when you have that, we have to have a production person, we have to have a sound man, we have to have our stage manager, we have to have our road manager, we have to have all those things in place, because at that level, me, even though I may be the person in charge, I cannot do it all. I cannot do it all. So I have to make sure that, just like the people inside the group, I have to make sure that I get the people in those places that will get along with all my group members first. Make sure they get along with all my group members, even though they don't have to sleep with them or be with them all the time. But I do want them to get along with them, but I want them to be treated with respect. And I want to make sure that they know their business good enough for all of the group members to know that each one of those other people are very important to making our outcome great.
Stella?
I agree with all the comments that Ronnie made. It's kind of hard to elaborate on that, but from starting from scratch, you know, obviously your main ingredients, I guess, is just like baking a cake, right? So you've got your musicians that you need equipment. Obviously, Ronnie, you're on a different level, but with a band that's working locally, you need to get your equipment, the insurance on the equipment, you need to get your bookings. So whether you go through an entertainment agency, or you have a booking agent that's going to find the work for you. So once you have your band members and the equipment, and of course your material, you need your playlist of the songs, and organizing all that, who's going to sing, and I think having a music director and delegating, so that if you have someone who's a music director, he can handle the musicians. I'd like to say I like to handle the business, but organizing, getting all those details, everybody plays an important role. So music director will get all the musicians to know who's playing what, making sure they're playing everything right. And then you've got all your musicians that need to know their music and what their responsibilities are. And then then you need to get your bookings. That's the next thing, because once you have your product, they need to go out and use it. So then you need a booking agent or a manager to make sure that that's all happening. And you just want it all to come together and then come to fruition, that you can get out there and perform and do what you love. But I think a lot of people that forget, there's all that stuff that's backstage. There's all that preparation. I think one of the most important ingredients is the preparation and the organization. So you have to take all those ingredients and then put them in a timeline fashion and know who's doing what, when, and being prepared. So when you get to the gig, you know exactly how everything is going to come, how everything will come as you prepared.
So there's hundreds of hours of business that needs to be taken care of before you ever hit the stage. And I think new artists or people that are just using this as a hobby don't understand that there's so much more to do before you get to the stage. Sheila, you have a question?
I do. So you guys are obviously very organized and established over all the years, but I want to break it down to the everyday norm of people still playing in the clubs, and their budget is $500. So each man gets $100 because there's 5 of you. So how do we create, and what percentage should we set aside to pay for all that other stuff? You know what I mean? So there's got to be a different mindset if we're going into business in the long run, that even if it's you, if it's like, if I'm going to book, my heart would say, okay, $500, we'll all get 100. We got 5 people, we'll get 100, or there's 4, we'll get 125 each. Well, then there's no money to pay the other person to do all that stuff. At what point, or even at the beginning, maybe that's what we should start doing at the beginning, that what percentage, Stella, do you set aside for the business side? Ronnie, what percentage do you set aside to take care of the background, those who are making it happen? You know, and then we go out there and we perform, blah, 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 blah. But then who's paying those people that are running behind the scene? So what is your formula for coming up with the price, what you're going to charge? Do you have a formula that you work from to make that happen? Because you've got a staff now. You've got a staff. And then what the staff does should pay. It should be bringing in money. Everybody should be bringing in money in some way. The value should bring in money. I believe that that's where it goes. So, you know, give me some percentage or something, so that if I'm saying, okay, they have $1,000. Is everybody going to split it? We're going to all split it, or equally, or I have to have one pot that is set aside for the business expenses. Ronnie, unmute yourself, Ronnie.
I think, okay, she got me unmuted now. Okay, generally the way I operate is, you know, most engagements have variables involved as far as the expenses and things of that nature. So that means that we have less of a net to work with as far as paying staff. You know, so generally how I do it, I have a set pay scale for each one of those staff members. You know, depending on what they're doing, you know, they would get rated a different amount of money, just as I generally would do for the musicians and the personnel on our stages. You know, they would have a set amount per engagement, you know, and that's where those 1099s come in, those receipts. And at the end of the year, sending the 1099s out and having your business set up so that you can be prepared to get the total gross of money to the business, and then all of your deductions from there, and also the 1099 miscellaneous form sent out to everybody. That's including the staff, because that staff is not going to be working for you all the time as an employee. You know, that staff is going to be just like the musicians, pretty much just working for hire, unless you are on such a major operation where you're going to have employees, and that's not normal and not a standard in this business, because people come and go too much.
Mm-hmm.
Stella, because you manage a pretty big group as well.
So interesting, very interesting question, because I remember when I first got into the business, I worked with another band and kind of learned what I never wanted to be anybody else to experience. Because it would be, we practiced for 6 months, we drove every day to his house, we practiced, went through all these different musicians and singers, and finally, okay, we're going to go on the road. And it was like, you're going to make $50. You know, you've just driven to Florida and you're going to work for $50 a night. That's because you have to chip in for all the equipment that I'm buying. Well, I was 22 years old and I thought, oh, I got to pay my dues. Well, that went on for a while. And then when I left that band, I said, boy, I learned about how not to treat people. Because I thought, you know what, so I took the approach, you can have there's two different ways. You could, as Sheila indicated, you have 5 people, you make $500, you split it equally, but then you have to split the expenses. Now, if that's, you know, if you have a family to feed and you're only making $100 a gig, but you've got to chip in for equipment, that's not very attractive. So that's, unless you're going into a different circuit where the band's making $5,000 a gig, you can do it that way. But still, you have to have someone who's going to manage all the expenses, all the business end of it. And so in my experience, I thought I would rather run it like a business where I hire musicians and pay them what the going rate is. If they're going to, depending on how many hours, if they're going to do the ceremony, if they're going to do a cocktail set, if they're going to do a 4-hour engagement, that's how they get paid. If they're going to set up or strike, they'll get paid extra. If they come to rehearsal, if there are rehearsals, we can pay them for that. So I run it like a business, because then I had someone help me invest initially to put up all the money for the equipment. And then I ran it like a business. So when someone came in, you didn't tell them, okay, you've got to chip in for this or chip in for that. Basically, they're independent contractors, come in, you're going to make X amount for the gig. And that's a lot more attractive to musicians than coming in and telling them, unless they're going to start a band and that would be more so not an LLC, be more of a corporation. We're going to look at a different identity for the company, right? But I rather have it, I run mine like an LLC. I'm the sole managing member. So I'm responsible financially for everything going on. So my band members just come in and perform and not worry about the financial end of it. And I think that's a lot easier for most musicians.
So when you're giving your price, I think one of you said that you have your list, or I don't know if it was yesterday, but you have your list and you make sure how much this is, that is, all these things. And then if I'm a member of your band, I never know what that is. All I know is what you're paying me. And then
do they need to know
are
that?
given what the cost of you performing, you know, for whatever the gig is. But so they're like paying the group, you know, paying for the show. And then you are the only ones who know what the breakdown is. I don't need to know, and I don't need to split it, because people will count your money. They'll say how many people, you know, and I got this, and I'm sure they paid this, you know, stuff like that. But so that's what I wanted to know. Do you have like a list of what your expenses are that you have to cover? And then that's what you give them, what your price is. But the band members, all they know is what they are getting, as just like an employee. An employee only knows, they don't know how much was made for that month. They just know how much they're supposed to get. And even individually, it might be something different. And then after if you want to say something, then I think Stephanie wanted to chime in.
Stephanie had her hand
I
up.
know she got some legal stuff to tell us.
Okay, Stephanie.
Stephanie,
Okay.
do you want to go ahead? Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say a couple things. When it comes to, I think what the information has been excellent. And at the same time, I wanted to add 2 elements to it. The first one is that when we're talking about how money is split up, the conversation we've been having up until this point has been one, from the way that I've heard it, where there is an artist talking about how they pay their supporting performers. And I agree with everything that has been said. I would like to chime in from the perspective of what the artist looks at for themselves and the money that they actually put in their pockets after they've paid the supporting team, what the supportive creative team. And so essentially what happens is, and the other thing I'm going to talk about is an artist that might be at an earlier stage, because when we talk about live performances and dividing up the pot, we've kind of skipped some steps because you have to get to that point before you can even address those issues. But I'll talk first about what the artist who's more established gets and how they determine a fee, because I think that that's important, because when you're negotiating your fee, there are things that you should include in the fee. And either it's going to be an all-in fee, which means that will include certain expenses, travel, hotel, those types of things. And at a certain level, we would hope that the venue is going to either have the sound and lighting equipment, or they're going to be responsible through your rider to get whatever you need, and it's not going to be at your expense. So when you're looking at what the artist gets, and Sheila had asked about, is there a certain percentage? After you've dealt with everything that you guys have already talked about in terms of your payment of your creative team, off the top, if you're at that level, more than likely you have a personal manager who's probably going to get a commission off the top, which could be anywhere from 15% on the low end to 25% on the high end. You may have a business manager who's going to deal with the taxes and make sure that first of all, that the money that you receive is that you collect what you're entitled to, and that they help to dispense and pay it out, and make sure all that the taxes and everything are addressed. If you have a business manager, the standard fee for that is 5%. At that level, you may have an attorney who, because of the volume of work, rather than paying your attorney at an hourly rate, you may pay them a commission off of what you make. That commission, the standard in the industry is 5%. So I've said probably, and the average for a manager usually is about 20%. So I've said 20%, and I've said 5% twice. So we're talking about maybe 30% off of the top. That's going to deal with paying for your team. Then if you have a booking agent, the standard rate for the national booking agents is of 10%. So you can add another 10% to that of what they book, so all that comes off the gross. So usually the air quotes standard thing is, if you are walking away as an artist with 50% or more of what your gross is, that's considered to be doing well. And that's debatable, but that's what is considered to be doing well. Like I said, in air quotes. I wanted
Stephanie, what was that? What was the first one you said?
I said the personal manager is the first,
okay.
And then the business manager, your attorney, and then your booking agent, if we're talking about a live performance. Then I wanted to backtrack and talk about the artist who aspires to get live gigs on a consistent basis, but might not be there yet because there's still a team that you need to assemble in order to help get you to a point where that is a possibility for you. And I liked what Ronnie had said earlier, and I think it applies equally on the business side. When you're first starting out, you look more at the roles that need to be filled, the duties, the tasks that need to be filled. And then you look and see who you have as a support system, and you try to divide them among those people. I think at the early stages of an artist's career, one of the most important things that you need is somebody who really believes in that act very strongly, because I think when you're motivated, I know when I'm motivated, I'm going to do what is necessary. There are different types of managers. There are some managers who just believe in you and you can trust them, and they love the business and they want to learn. And to me, that is better than someone who might be more established, because every manager is not a developing artist manager. There are managers when you get to a certain point who have connections, because management is really based on relationships. And they have access to things. And when an artist is at a certain level, they're able to leverage those relationships in order to create business opportunities for the artist or acts that they represent. But they are not in the business of helping to develop and harvest your abilities and get them to a certain point. So at the initial stages, someone who believes in you and is passionate about you, who you can trust, who either has a genuine desire to learn the business or is involved in some stages in it, I think that is a mandatory person for you. Eventually, as your career evolves and you need advice, or you also need at this point, I would say if your budget allows, a CPA, if your budget does not allow, at the minimum, a bookkeeper, because as Rhonda has been driving home, it's important that you keep track of what you're bringing in and what your expenses are, and that you have a way of recording and reporting it. I would say if there's any paperwork involved, it's never too early, in my opinion, to involve a attorney or someone who can help you to make sure that that contracts are, anytime there's a relationship between two people who are exchanging services, there needs to be a contract associated with it. When at the point, even at the earliest stages, when you are developing music, there's copyrights that need to be filed. There's split sheets that need to be signed so that you can make sure that there's a clear understanding of who owns what, and then the proper registration and protective measures have been put in place, because you may not have a lot of money, but you cannot afford not to protect whatever you are creating, or you're throwing money out the window. So I know I've said a lot and I didn't want to take up a lot of time, but I thought it was important to share those things.
Oh, wow, that was great information. That's stuff you need to know. That's really stuff you need to know. Okay,
Yeah.
and then last.
I just want to throw this in here, Gisele. It was funny over the COVID shutdown. My husband and I wrote 7 songs, and I'm new at that, right? And so one day he came up and we were sitting in the living room, and he says, we're like joint in this, right? I'm like, yeah. But I remember, it was such a good question, because I know of some things that he has done and helped and rewrote or redid the music or said it, and they did not acknowledge him or pay him. And then I know of a woman now who worked with Earth, Wind, and Fire, and and her and her husband had written some stuff, and she's still trying to get her money from him. And of course, when you break up, then, there's that thing, what you go through with divorce and all that kind of stuff. So it is, and even though she does have, I guess she has the paperwork and stuff saying that I wrote the song and you did your part, just going through it, he won't give her part. So it doesn't even matter about the relationship. We may love one another, but we do need to take care of the business side of that. Even if it was the past and I passed and I didn't have that paperwork, and then the children come in and want to do all kind of things and don't know what the relationship was. So the paperwork is very, very, very important. And I'm talking to myself, Stephanie. I'm talking to myself to make sure that, we take care of the business that is at hand.
I have created some spreadsheets that I, will offer to people that they could utilize. I know sometimes they don't know how to set it up, but I have, spreadsheets that you can use and that you can follow as a template, but it helps, for you to keep track of things.
And I think Rhonda's information is in the chat room, but we will make sure we put it on the City of Arts website so that people will know how to contact you, Rhonda, as well as Stephanie, if they need an attorney. If you need a musical director, Ronnie Nelson is there. He ain't cheap, but he's good. He's the best that I've seen in a while. And I know that, like I said, some of the biggest lessons I've learned from him, that he does not go off on you, but he will tell you what you did wrong and what you need to do to correct it. And I'd rather someone be upfront with me when I do something wrong instead of being behind my back talking about me, saying, well, she screwed this up. Yeah, there's some things I needed to learn. And he was willing to teach it, and it was good. It was good. Do you have any closing remarks? Before we get to closing remarks, I want to mention that although Guyman Inslee did not speak up when I was asking him a question, I want to congratulate him on this past week. The Academia Music Awards were given, and he was given the star for the Rising Star at a rising musician. He's a rising star in Academia Music Awards. The award ceremony was this past week in Los Angeles, and they gave him a beautiful award. So I want to say congratulations, Guyman, for the award, that he has stepped away from being the musical director, the band leader, and he's writing more music. He's writing things for commercials and for movies. And I'm going to hook him up with Liz Laren that was on last night, that she had so much information yesterday because she's doing movies. So congratulations again, Guy. He is a horn player, plays trumpet. And also we have Philip Hale in the house, and Philip is one of the most prolific keyboard players. And all right, he happens to be married to Sheila, but but he's a great performer, and it's great when the family works together. I want to thank Jamila, who has been helping out she's been helping out watching the chat room, letting me know when people are on, when they come in, and if they have a question. So I want to thank you, Jamila, for helping out. And I think Pam has a question. Yes, she has her hand raised. Pamela?
I don't have a question. I just wanted to make a statement. I just want to thank you guys for all the information that you have given, for not just for myself, but for musicians and singers and young and old. And I don't just mean in age, because all the information that you guys have given should really help someone who wants to have a career in the music industry. And I just wanted to say thank you.
Okay, I have a final question for each of you. Now that we've talked about all the things that we've learned not to do and some of the things that we do that are successful, can you tell me what has sustained you? What has kept you in this business? What's kept you here? Stella, we'll start with you at the top.
But first, I want to thank Sheila and City of Arts for allowing me to participate on this panel, because it's been a wonderful opportunity and I'm learning so much from all of you. So thank you. I think that what has helped me stay in the business is my passion for music. I think that's the underlying, the force that drives me is my love for music. And all the people that I am able to share in producing the music and all the clientele. And if I think about any other business I'd want to be in, I don't think I'd change. I remember originally thinking I wanted to go into law, and I loved languages because my family's from Northern Italy and we traveled a lot, and I loved languages. And I thought, like, what career? It's funny because I think Rhonda made a very good, in your presentation, I enjoyed how you laid out how to be, to continue in the business and the tools you need, the ingredients. And that is so true, because there are so many careers we can select. I've often gone to schools on a career day, and you have the doctor, you have, whatever career you're in. And not too many times you get a musician or someone that's able to do it full time. And I'm so grateful. And I think, you know what, in retrospect, I couldn't do anything else because my passion is music. That's what drives me. That's what makes me happy. When I'm on stage and I'm singing, or there's a song that moves me, or music that touches each person. And music is universal. Think about it. That's something that it touches them in one way or another. So that's my driving force. And I think as I get older, because when you're first in the business, you have insecurities and, and it's so hard. And then when you've been doing it, you think about, okay, when you have a family and you see your kids, following in your footsteps, and you see the passion. That's what it's all about. It's like, how have I touched people? How have I made a difference in the world? And I think through music and all the fabulous, talented people that have been in my life, and now all of you, I feel like you're part of my family. It's been a learning experience. So yeah, that's what drives me.
Rhonda?
There we go. What drives me is just having the knowledge to be able to help others. I love the music business. I'm no longer on the performing side because that's a choice that I made. Not that I don't enjoy being on the stage. I do. I love being on the stage, but I also love being behind the scenes. And being behind the scenes where that I can help an artist be sustainable and be able to have something for a rainy day and not have to struggle, because a lot of artists struggle. And so my goal is to help you maintain and sustain yourself and give you the tools that will help you be successful in being sustainable, if you understand what I mean. And that's what drives me to get up every day and to come up with some things that I can help. Gisele, she'll tell you, I will help you and I will give you the tools. It's up to you though. I can't force you, but I can encourage you. And that is what I strive for each and every day that I get up. And it makes me feel good when you listen and I can see the results. And it's like, wow, look at that. They're doing really well. And it just makes me feel good. So that is.
Stephanie?
Yes. So what motivates me and has sustained me is that it bothers me how much money creative people generate for others and how often they are left destitute. And I don't mean to say to alleviate or to absolve them of their contributions to it, but I feel it's almost criminal how there's a pattern of it happening over and over again. So that's what drove me to want to be in the industry in this regard. And that's what sustains me, because in an ideal world, in my idealistic self, when I first started, the goal was to help them to retain as much money as they could and to have generational wealth so that they would have something to pass on to their families. Because it's heartbreaking to me when you see people that require assistance for funerals of people that have done well for others as well as themselves. And because I think it's so wonderful to have passive income and to be able to know how to collect it and to pass it along, I think is a gift. And then the other part of it is that for me, it's almost criminal that we have so much creative talent in Detroit that has national and international prominence, and we don't have the business industry side of it in order to support that in the numbers that we should. And so that's what motivates me, because I remember when I was in high school, and I remember Gregory Reed was acting as a producer of plays, and he brought a soldier's play to the Fisher Theater and donated those tickets to Detroit Public Schools. I remember being 17 and going to see that and remembering the impact on me when I knew that he was doing those things and he was representing Thomas Hearns and Cront. That was a tangible entity or person that I could reach out and touch that lived and breathed in the city of Detroit. And that gave me it validated my goals that number one, if he could do it, I could do it. And if he could do it here, I could do it here. I didn't have to go to New York. I didn't have to go to LA. I didn't have to go to Tennessee. I did not have to go to Atlanta to realize those dreams. And I've been able to manifest that in part, I believe, because I had that visible example. So I would like to be that example for others too. So those are the two things that sustain me.
Okay, Ronnie.
Say is that I believe in that word hope. You know, I've always had the hope in my heart and in my mindset that so many of the talented people that are all crowded at the bottom can reach up and stand up and be on the top at one day. You know, I've been able to see that top side so many times, and I saw so many people that were like one-hit wonders and they disappeared. But I just believe and I have the hope that we can bring so many of our talented people here and let them see the light on top. You know, that as long as I have that hope and that dream, that keeps me motivated to keep trying and try to bring as many of those people up to the top and share that light all together.
Okay, well, I think that says it all, because part of the motivation for the City of Arts was to be a collaboratory organization, that we can collaborate with each other, we can support each other, we can be there for each other. Information is key and powerful, and to be able to pick up the phone and call someone to ask for help. That's the thing, you have to ask for help. Like Ronnie told me, if you don't know, you better ask somebody. So my job in this industry has been as a collector of souls. I may not be able to do the things that you guys do, but I'd like to say that my relationship with the people on this panel, that I can pick up the phone and call and say, how do I do this? Or can you do this? Or would you help me with this? That makes my reputation great, because people think, oh, she did this. No, I knew how to pick up the phone and call Ronnie Nelson, call him as a musical director. Now I can call Stella and say, hey, this person is trying to put together this event, or call Sheila, or to make sure my business is together by calling Rhonda. And Stephanie has always been there for me, and I'd do anything in the world for her, and she has always been there for me. And that has made a difference in my life. Before we close out, I think Sheila has something to say.
Okay, you know, I just love all of you. You are in the baby stage of manifesting the City of Arts. And I just wanted to just quickly read what the City of Arts is. The City of Arts is a virtual city where the arts are celebrated and seen as a viable way of creating income and prosperity for families of the common performing artists in all art disciplines, in music, performing arts, fine arts, photography, theater, dance, film, writing, all of that. And that's the performing side as well as the business side of that. Since the City of Art is virtual, we're able to be blessed, entertained, and inspired by artists from all over the world, which enables us to stream live or recorded performances, classes, conferences, concerts, and all of that all around the world in various places as well. And then it says that here's the vision. The vision, and I'm so serious about this, is to live in a world dripping of art, dripping of music, dance, etc. That starving artist needs to just disappear. It's to see that every child experiences a substantial amount of various arts and music in their lives. It is to see the joy in the faces of our elder artists when they get honored and compensated for work well done.
Yes.
Those who have truly lived the life of a starving artist or striving artist because of their passion and drive to express themselves here on earth. So our goal is to provide income opportunities for artists around the world, to restore the dignity of the starving artists throughout the world and create a portal for their art, their music, their dance, the books, their writing, all that to be expressed with true compassion. True compassion and compensation for the enjoyment and betterment of the world. So I literally would love to wake up in the morning and go outdoors around 12 o'clock, and down on the corner, there's a quartet singing. And they're singing because they've been assigned to be on that corner, and they get paid for doing that because that's what they love to do. And if they put a hat or a basket out there, it is their tips. But an organization that supports at whatever level that you are at, their support. There's somewhere where you can go and look for a lawyer that really specializes in entertainment. Look for a bookkeeper, CPA, and tax consultant that really specializes in the arts. That's going to take money, but that's with God, there's nothing impossible. And I also know that God is the one that gives you the ideas. So
Yes.
if you've been the one it's been poured into, then it is up to the Spirit to provide that and make it happen. All we have to do is yield to that and then come together. Like it's been said, we're just 6 people away from everything that we need. And so if there's 6 of us, then that means 36, right? 6 times 6, 36 people, bam, right here. So I want to also tell you that this afternoon is the keyboard players. My husband Philip is the moderator, so we want you to come back or tell other people about it.
What time?
It is at 7, from 7 to 9, and then we're going to boogie from 9 to 10 with the musicians that are all on here. Ronnie, I think we got something from you, and Stella from you. We've been looking for everybody that is performers and putting them in the jumble of all weekend from 9 to 10. And so I thank you, and we are creating, you are my Elizabeths. Elizabeths are people who make your baby leap when you're pregnant, and all of you are pregnant with vision. And so when I'm around you, my baby leaps, and I'm sure your baby leap when you're around me. Because we get to talk about that, and your baby just be jumping around. Yeah. So I love you. I appreciate you. Gisele, you're my heart. Gisele is my partner in this, and I trust her. Integrity is high on my list. High on my list.
Good.
And I thank you for partnering with me to create this. So thank you. And you'll find out more. Ronnie, did you want to say something?
I just want to say thank you for having me, and I really appreciate this whole symposium. I think this is really something that's fantastic, and I'm looking forward to grow.
Right. It's not just a conversation, it's action. We're going to have action behind this and make it happen. All right.
Thank you. I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. Thank
Hugs
you.
to you, Stella, Rhonda, Ronnie. Jamila, thank you, everyone. Stephanie,
Pam.
thank you. And
Pam,
Pamela.
Pam's in there every day bringing
Pamela.
people in.
I appreciate everybody.
And thank you, our
Yeah.
guests as well, and Jamila and Guyman and I think
Imari.
I think Imari joined us before, but we're gonna
Yes.
get on out of here because I think our time is up. I love you.
Yes, it is. Love you guys.
Love you
Have a
guys.
great day.
Have a
Bye-bye.
wonderful day. All right. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Be safe.
Bye.